Welcome, everyone, to our first Harmony Core office hours session of 2021. It looks like we have a small group here, but we also have Steve Ives and Jeff Green. And as usual, we're going to kick things off with some updates. So take it away, guys.
Okay, Jeff?
Yeah. All right. So for updates, the biggest thing that has happened is we've shipped completed support for xfServerPlus migration. So all of the data types are now supported, and we've made some changes on the inside of CodeGen to deal with various patterns that pop up. There is a little bit of remaining CodeGen work depending on the size of names that people use, but we're making some changes to how nested groups and arrays work in order to deal with when names get added together, they end up resulting in names that are too long for traditional Synergy to handle. So that is some ongoing work inside CodeGen, but the actual data types and wire format and all of the sort of the code side in traditional Bridge is now all working and tested and is doing its thing. We also solved some customer issues with optional out parameters. For those that don't know, there in xfServerPlus COM there was support for optional parameters, and there wasn't in .NET or Java. But we do support them in Harmony Core because it is a pretty okay fit for web APIs to have optional parameters. But we had some specific issues with what do you do when an out parameter is not passed? Like, how do you know that an out parameter isn't passed? And we've settled on in web APIs, specifically out parameters are always passed. In-out parameters are still, you either pass something or you don't, and it's treated as optional, but out will always go through. We've also fixed an issue in the EF core provider, specific to when you're using the EF core provider directly, as opposed to through OData, where if you specified in your query a contains clause and the contains list was empty, the query would fail at runtime. And so that is fixed now, regardless whether you have an empty collection or a collection of one. It translates it appropriately and runs the query. That's it for the larger items. It's sort of a short update because of the vacations in between. But yeah, that's it for me. Steve, you got anything?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, a little bit more on the information that you shared about the CodeGen changes. I'm in the middle of quite a large CodeGen update, which it partially is going to be ultimately about what Jeff was talking about with the groups, and the way that I'm not quite exactly sure how that's going to work yet, but I think we've got a reasonable design. And it'll be quite interesting because it'll give us the ability not only to deal with names, names, and just to reassure you, that the issue with long names is really it's pretty much in quite extreme scenarios, particularly if you've got arrays of groups or arrays of nested groups where both multiple levels of groups and arrays are being expanded, and you've got very long field names. So for most group scenarios, the current stuff would work okay. It's really just when you get into arrays of groups and nested arrays of groups and things like that things can get a little bit extreme. but I think the design we've got will allow us to do some pretty neat stuff. Ultimately, it's quite a big change. I haven't actually started that part of the change yet, but it will allow us to give you the option. Right now, an array field is expanded out into, if you've got an array of 10A10, you wind up with 10 individual fields in the data object. This change that we're doing would allow us optionally to say, no, we're still going to expose an array property through the data object and through the JSON and so on. It will also give us the option to say, rather than expanding groups and arrays into individual fields and dealing with the long name scenario, in fact, the way we'll deal with that will be that instead of, again, if you've got a group with 5 fields in it, or an array of 5 of a group with 5 fields and getting 25 fields in the data object, you'll get a nested class, essentially. So you'll get nested levels in the JSON, and you'll have an address property, and within it will be a city-state, street, city-state, zip, country property. So it'll be a much more natural experience once we get this done. But obviously, it will change the shape of some APIs somewhat. So we're going to have to implement it in a way that you can switch it on and off with a switch somehow. I haven't fully thought through that in terms of how the templates will work, but that's what's coming because of this. So it's not just about the long names. It will actually give us some quite nice functionality feature benefits too. And generally I'm working on a new version of CodeGen right now. I'm trying to look at all of the. Pretty much we did what we in the early days we implemented important stuff, and as time went by we've filled it out with things that were missing that we needed. What I'm trying to do is go through the repository literally in every minute detail and make sure that CodeGen exposes absolutely everything that's available in the repository. It's probably at 98% already, but there are some things that weren't there, so I'm trying to complete that to get 100% exposure through CodeGen, and therefore availability in Harmony Core of everything. And also both in terms of expansion tokens that let you insert data, and also expression tokens that allow you to test whether something is there or not. So there's quite a big update coming when it comes. It'll probably be at least a couple of weeks before we get anywhere near the group thing, hopefully. Another thing I guess I'd mention is new year, new role. So my role, 1st of January last year, changed, and I became the product manager, and essentially nothing to do with consulting. I did also have some commitment to Harmony Core. What we learned from what we did last year was we don't need 100% of my time to be spent doing product management. So I'm really happy to announce that I'm essentially 60% back in PSG again. The other 40% I'll still be doing product management related activities, but I will be getting more physically involved with PSG generally, and a lot of the activities that are going on in PSG right now are Harmony Core related. So I've already got, we're 6 days into the year, and I think I've already got 2 possible implementations for customers coming up in the next few weeks. So I'll be getting a little bit more hands-on involved in the products again as well, which I'm excited about. Anything else? Yesterday, we're going through a process at Synergex where we had to, as you probably know, we went to Office 365 last year, and that meant some turmoil in the area of Microsoft accounts and work accounts versus personal accounts. And historically, things like our Visual Studio solution subscriptions, and therefore our Azure subscriptions, were all based on our individual Microsoft accounts, which are now not our work accounts. So we're going through the process right now of completely splitting those two things apart and making sure that all of our MSDN subscriptions and Azure subscriptions are all associated with our Office 365 work accounts essentially. So the knock-on effect for Harmony Core is that actually both the Harmony Core demo site, harmonycoreapp.azurewebsites.net, and the xfBBQ demo site both had to basically move yesterday. In fact, I had to destroy them and recreate them. The Harmony Core one, I believe, is back. The one thing that's never worked in here is the traditional bridge examples at the bottom. I'm trying to get those working right now. They're not working right at this minute, but they will be soon. Other than that, I believe everything else is working again. Right now, just in case anybody is using this for demo purposes, xfBBQ, the website is there, but there's something wrong in the back end right now. So I'll be trying to get that addressed this morning. Once that's done, you shouldn't notice a difference, and everything should carry on as normal with both of those things. And I guess that's all I've got right now. So I guess we can open it up to questions.
All righty. Well, perhaps we will wrap it up here and just have a quick little session for today. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Our next session of Harmony Core Office Hours will be on the 17th of February. So yeah, it sounds like there are some exciting things in the works, and we'll have some interesting updates at that point. But for now, thanks again for joining, and we hope to see you at the next one. Have a good day, everyone.